This is the show we are so unbelievably proud to bring you. Bret the Hitman Hart, for the first time since his stroke, a worldwide exclusive. Where was he immediately after the stroke? How about his recovery? And Vince McMahon, what does he think of him now? Bret Hart, one-on-one. Bring it on.
Off the Record with Michael Landsberg is brought to you by the Keg Steakhouse and Bar. For great steaks, good friends, see you tonight.
I don't want to take too much time here. If you're watching, you know what we've got today. A great wrestler, a very good friend, and a really inspirational guy, Bret Hart. This interview is a worldwide exclusive. It's the first TV that you have done since you had the stroke, so thank you so very much for trusting us with us. Nice to see you. Nice to see you looking so good.
Glad to be here.
First off, we should start with your amazing recovery. You look great right now. Hair's a little bit short. On one hand, I know that you're here to talk to your fans, but also to test yourself. Everybody knows that you had a stroke. They may not realize that it was very serious, that you were actually paralyzed on the left side of your body and almost died. Sitting here today, I got to ask you, how you feeling?
I feel really good. I am glad to be alive and glad to be where I am today. When I remember where I was before, when I had the stroke, kind of like if you were at the bottom of a barrel, I was at the bottom of a real deep hole, and I remember those moments when I first had the stroke, in the first few weeks and maybe even the first couple of months. There's some pretty dark times for me.
I think we want to put it in perspective for people that they don't understand, because in the world of wrestling, it's all about a work, and it's all fake, right? But this is as real gets. You were riding your bike, you fell, you're in the hospital, the doctors tell you you have a stroke, you've had a stroke, that your life's in jeopardy. I want you to tell me physically what you were not able to do at that point.
When they took me into the hospital, all I had was a little bit of feeling in my toes and a little bit of feeling in the tips of my fingers. And I didn't get it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't find out till about 4 in the morning that I had the stroke, that I had one. And I didn't understand it, and I was actually thinking, for the first 4 days, even though they told me what it was, I kept thinking, I'm just going to get up and walk out of here in about a week or 2 weeks. 3 weeks from now, I'll be sitting in my house joking about this. And it took me about 4 days, and then I think it was even my doctor came in, and I asked him the question. I said, I guess I should get used to the fact that I'm not going to get up and walk out of here. And he said, you're looking at 6 months just to recover.
But there were no guarantees, right? I mean,
no.
You walked in today with hardly a limp. You and I talked before we went on camera for a half hour. You sat and you ate sandwiches, you had a cup of coffee, we laughed about all kinds of stuff. I mean, this is literally a staggering achievement, and there was no guarantee at that point that you would ever be able to walk unassisted, that you'd ever be able to lead a normal life.
No, they don't make any guarantees, because I think, unfortunately, a lot of stroke people don't recover, or they don't get a lot of it back, and so they don't want to make any big promises. And they were very vague, and I could see that they were being vague, and you sort of sink. Depression, and you're emotionally you're devastated. You know, if you go to a stroke ward, everybody on it's in tears, and everyone's crying, and it's a very, very depressing hallway to walk down. But there was I had some really good people that, especially the physio people in Calgary at the Foothills Hospital. They really worked well with me, and they pushed me, and I have met a lot. I have a newfound respect for hospitals and nurses and the people that in that healthcare system, that not just with me, but all the people in the physio department.
So your life was cruising along pretty normally. You had been recovering from a post-concussion problem that had forced you to retire from wrestling. You were telling me that you had an invitation from Daniel Agali the night you had your stroke to have dinner with
Kofi Annan, the head of the United Nations. They had the summit. I was actually riding my bike to ride downtown to kind of just check it out, the summit. And yeah, I mean, 1 minute I was on top of the world, and the next minute I couldn't even turn my hand over or anything. It was...
So I want to ask you then, as you sit in this darkness that you talked about, you're depressed, you're wondering about the rest of your life. Where was the first ray of sunshine? At what point did you realize, you know what, I'm seeing some positive situations here that are developing?
I don't know. That's hard to answer. I think the first, I mean, I was able to stand on my leg, but when I was able to do that, it was a big thing to stand and sort of be able to walk, but I couldn't really walk yet. I could use the wall or something or lean on something. But I think one of the first things, I just remember I woke up in the morning in the hospital and I hadn't been able to move hardly anything, just a little bit of my fingers now. And I remember I just looked at the nurse came in and I went like this. And that was a big thing.
Now, you were a guy who had to put up with enormous amounts of pain in the ring, right? I mean, that's what it is. To wrestle for Vince McMahon, you got to be able to go out there when you're in pain. You got to go out there when your shoulder is killing you. Contrast the pain that you thought was so extreme from when you wrestled to what you felt, immediately after your stroke.
No comparison. I mean, the stroke, I wasn't really in a lot of pain, but I think, it was definitely my biggest battle. Like I couldn't get around being, like having I couldn't do anything.
Let me ask you this. Did the fact that you were a high-performance athlete, that you were used to training in the gym all the time, that it was all about staying in shape, and it was all about putting up with the pain of being in the gym, did that help you or did it hurt you?
In the beginning, because of my muscle mass, say, and my size and stuff, it's actually works against you because you have to carry around more weight than like if you're
the normal
if you're a
person would
smaller,
have. Yeah.
thinner guy, it's a lot easier to start recovering. But in saying that, once you get to say like where the halfway point of the 6 months that I started to recover, after about 3 months, all that muscle mass and your old strength and your old pistons everything starts to come back. Then I start to recuperate faster than someone that didn't work out, and it starts to benefit it. But it does not in the beginning because you're dragging around like a 50-pound leg and a 30-pound arm.
I got to ask you, and we'll take a break so we can reload. This is amazing. This is Bret Hart. It's the first time that he's talked, and we totally cherish the fact that you're doing it on this show. I want to ask you about Vince McMahon. I want to ask you about who responded to you and who didn't, and lots more. Bret Hart, one-on-one on Off the Record. The best thing about this is that you're alive and well and looking really good. Great to see you, man.
That's for sure.
Off the Record with Michael Landsberg is brought to you by the Keg Steakhouse and Bar. For great steaks, good friends, see you tonight.